Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Disability Dialogue. And today we'll be talking about parental support as my friend, my mom's stray cat friend, Walter, is showing up. And she'll be answering any questions that you may have and talking. I know that Rachel, who may join us later, wanted to know things like, how do you feel when people try to pray for your daughter? So we'll see how this goes. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Carol. I'm Kelly's mom. I live up here in Washington. Kelly grew up in Oregon. And she's one of my best friends. It was her and I against the world for the first 8 years. And then came her now little big brother.
He's like 6 foot tall.
And then it was, and grandma came along with us. So it's been the 4 of us for pretty much 30 years. So
then Wes came along.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wes came along. So there's 5 of us.
I would ask her the typical beginning questions, but she probably doesn't have a rehearsal bag or a dream role that she liked to play. So
yeah, I don't.
But you did community theater things, because that's how I ended up being in like Fiddler on the Roof as a baby.
Most of
right?
that stuff, like curtains.
She's a curtain. And then how did I become baby Jesus? Were you in that one, or are you just sitting out in the church?
I was just sitting out in the church.
Okay.
You were small. And
did a 12-year-old Mary have to try to hold me?
Yeah, probably. Maybe even an 8-year-old. Hard to say, but.
Oh, cool. So those were my first acting roles, and then I probably just acted around the house.
Well, technically your first one was Fiddler on the Roof, because you're in your baby seat. And I'm pulling the curtain.
Oh, I thought I was models, like Taylor model baby.
Not that I know.
No, I didn't ever go on stage. I was just curtain support.
I might have, but I just remember curtain support.
I was curtain support. It's a very important job in theater. Don't take it for granted.
But you were always putting on a show. It didn't make a difference where we were or how many people were in front of us. You were always putting on that show.
Yeah, I have memories of like at the dinner table and people are like, you should be an actress, Kelly, because you're silly. And I'd be like, okay. And then in middle school, I thought that's what I want to be. And I would write, like, we had to do a daily journal in English class, and I would write about it every day.
Well, you are the queen of improv.
I'm working towards being the queen of improv.
So. Well, you know, when you're on your own, you're pretty good at it. But when you have to be in front of other people, it's a little harder for you. But
you live and you learn.
Yeah, well, yeah. You just need to find that, I guess, speak more or speak up or something. That surprises me.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. In the last class I took, they told me I needed to be more like confident and louder. And I was like one time they were doing a thing where they were saying we had to act the opposite. So someone yelled out bossy, and I was like, if my mom was here, she'd say that I was already bossy. So yeah, but I'm already,
because we used to call you little mama.
Yeah, like, because I would boss my brother around. So yeah. But you know, I think I realized a lot of it could be just like being in a big city and you like keep your head down and you like that kind of thing. Maybe things have changed, but I'm working on it, and it's good to work on it. So does anyone have any questions to kick us off? And Michaela, if you're having issues, you can always send them in the chat. She's on, yeah. Or anything, or we can keep talking.
I think I think it works. I don't know. I'm in Virginia right now with my family actually, and there's like a storm happening outside, and I think it like knocked the Wi-Fi out. But yeah. I guess one question I have, I don't know if you answered this already. Do you have like, because I'm sure you've seen Kelly and stuff, like do you have a favorite like role that Kelly has played?
Oh. Hmm. Well, I'm a very proud mama. So no matter what this girl does, I'm the loudest and cheer the biggest. You know, she's played many little things. I guess one thing that comes, I don't know that it's my favorite, but I have pictures of her laying on a gurney from when
MASH.
she directed MASH.
So our theater would do, when you were a senior, you could student, you were basically the stage manager for our theater teacher. So you took notes for her, like when people were learning their lines, you marked like, okay, you missed the line, like, so but they needed people to be dead bodies in between scenes, and so I volunteered.
Or injured.
Yeah, so like progressively through the night, my first character was like screaming dead, like I'm dying, and we just ran down the aisles on this gurney, and then the second time I went down, I was doing like a death rattle. I was near death. And then the third time I was supposed to be a dead body. So even when I was supposed to be just crew, I ended up acting. I still have a bloody arm bandage like hanging around my like space. So
yeah. So I'd have to say most everything's my favorite, but that was a fun one because she was so many different roles. And the director. And, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that sounds fun. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you enjoy the disability films that we do?
I do. Those are really good. Like I told her when we were watching the Emmys, I always thought that I would see her, or Tony, sorry. Well, even the Emmys.
I'll win an Emmy. I'll take it. Maybe we'll go EGOT.
Yeah.
EGOT. Yeah.
That her and a friend of hers, I always expected to see them getting a Tony. So, you know, her being on Broadway. She's my drama queen.
Yes. And then Kelly has sort of talked about this before, but I'm curious from like both of your perspectives. Like when Kelly, well, I'm sorry also if you hear in the background, there's like my little baby cousin and her mom, they're like outside the door. So if you hear that, I'm sorry. There's like a little baby out there.
So you're still in Colorado?
No, we're in Virginia now, but I don't go back to DC until tonight. So like I'm here for today, and then tonight I'm going back to DC. But
right.
But I'm curious from like both of your perspectives, like when Kelly decided like that she wants to do like theater and like acting, like what was that sort of like Kelly deciding to do that, like you telling your mom about it, and then like your reaction to that, and like what was that sort of like for y'all?
I don't think she really told me. She just went for it. Just go for it. And with both of my kids, I'm a big cheerleader. And, you know, if it's something that makes her happy, we should all try stuff that, you know, makes us happy. And
I mean, I remember us having the discussion about like it's a hard career to do, and it's gonna be hard. Like I remember having that talk, but as far as like, I mean, I was signed up for like kids choirs, and I did music in school, and the middle school, the program, they only did theater once a year. So I ended up doing that. And then high school, I just did classes and started, I don't think we ever talked about like, should I be doing it or anything like that. So yeah. I remember I was at like a choir, you were at well, you were there and I was performing and mom said she was sitting behind this parent that goes, it's so nice that they let Kelly join the choir for just to like be up there. Like, so, you know,
Yeah,
she probably heard it all, but
she earned it. It's not because she has the disability that she's there. She can truly sing. So, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm disappointed along with her when people say she shouldn't be acting or trying out or doing stuff like that. I'm disappointed too. So.
Hi everyone, this is my grandma and she also supports me in my acting career. And she did a lot of music and some theater too as well. Because my grandpa was big in that, although he hasn't really been in my life since I was 8, but grandma went along with that. So, you know, she influenced me. And so this is my grandma too, and she's a big support.
I gotta take this to the kitchen.
All right, you do that.
Nice to meet you.
She's like, what are you doing? Just talking to
So I
a
just
screen.
support her wherever she chooses to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Prostitution.
No. It's your
Oh
body.
my gosh. So you said, Kelly, like you've heard other people's parents like make comments and things?
Yeah, that was one of them I heard, or I remember like mom telling me about. You know, I don't know. Did you remember hearing anything else?
Oh, there were lots of people that made comments about her. You know, she shouldn't be given a role that somebody who's able-bodied should be getting.
Who said that? I'm gonna go egg their house.
I don't remember. But, you know, I think that there's roles that she would have been great at, but was not given it because she wasn't as agile as somebody else, which, you know, kind of makes me disappointed and, you know, hurt along with her because I think that she's very able-bodied to do it just because maybe she can't run as fast across the stage as maybe the rest of us, but isn't acting part of adapting? So you adapt a role to someone. So
I think we're all strong believers of that. I have on my resume, I love working with theaters that like to think out of the box with me. Like that's one of the headlines on my, I'm hoping that makes like them, if they're seeing me and thinking about me, like makes them think even harder. I don't know.
Yeah, I really like that because it also kind of like, yeah, it frames it as more of like, let's be creative rather than like, this is a problem.
Right.
well, that's kind of how movies and plays and you know, TV shows are created, is, you know, by our imagination. So why can't you change or adapt a role to maybe, you know, someone who's really good at this role, but they don't run across the stage. Instead, they saunder across, or, you know, you pull out a rubber snake, she can run faster than most people.
It's true. It's true. So take note, directors. That's all I need for accessibility that day. Accommodations.
I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh.
Any more questions?
Let's see. Who did anybody put anything? I'm trying to think what other ones I had. I know I had another one. Let's see.
Allison, do you know of any good questions?
What
I guess oh, go ahead.
what advice do you have for other parents who have children with disabilities?
What advice do you have for parents that have trouble with their kid having a disability? You should tell the story about when I was diagnosed and the other mom.
Well,
I was thinking about
when Kelly was first diagnosed, we had an appointment, and the doctors kept coming in and out because she has spastic diplegia, which means affected more in the lower limbs, and spastic means like a rubber band, pull tight. But when she sleeps, that spasticity loosens, so they didn't realize that it was her. So they kept coming in not thinking it was her. But they didn't tell me at that appointment that she had cerebral palsy. And so then they had us come back to see a physical therapist. And when I was in the room and the physical therapist was manipulating her, muscles and all this stuff, we heard a very loud commotion going on. And I saw a woman like hurry out of the room next to us and run past. And then I heard staff asking what they're supposed to do. And then the police came. But the woman, before she left, she said, "I do not want a child who has a disability. I just don't want one." And so she left the child. And what I understand is the child was put up for adoption. But that just, I was 19 at that point when we were finding out that Kelly had cerebral palsy. So I was a very young mom finding that out. And I thought, well, she's definitely going to stand out because, she's not going to be like all the rest of the kids out there. And so we embraced that challenge. So if it was going to Ross's and finding clothes or shoes that nobody else had, that's what we did. Kelly stood out. Kelly was going to be there. And when she came to me and said, "Mom, I want to do track," and I had to go to the track teacher and ask, and he said, "Well, we can't do that because she might get killed out on the track." I said, "Well, she'll be doing something that she wanted to try to do." Because I don't know what else to say, but why not give her a chance?
I had no idea that you had to talk to him.
Yes.
It's funny. Because I went up, so I came from a sports town, and all the cool kids did sports in middle school. They only did a play once, a year. I did choir. But so I've gone to my track teacher and was like, "I want to do track." And he goes, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Run." And he goes, "How about shot put?" And so I just figured our conversation was what sealed it, but I didn't realize that but she was always going in
I had
and
to
fighting
sign the
my
papers.
battles.
Yeah, there were a lot of battles. They didn't want to let her walk like to music class. So her one-on-one assistant would take a chair and from first grade, and they would walk down a little ways, and she put the chair down for Kelly to rest, and then they'd walk a little farther down and rest. But she, like I told them, we had already spent 6 years to get her up walking. We weren't gonna put her back in a wheelchair just for them to be moving her around to play out or sit in a wheelchair outside, or, you know, she was gonna be a kid because that's what she is. And so,
Not that there's anything wrong with being in a wheelchair.
well, no,
Mhm.
no, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that. It's
Yeah.
just we
It was
we
just
fought
it
hard
was
to
just
get you
they
up and-
just wanted me in there for their convenience, where like, you know.
we had driven 400 miles every other week for physical therapy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money and time that you could get up and walk.
Mhm. So what advice would you give someone who has a disabled child? What would you tell them?
Because things are different with each parent. I don't know, just love them and love the challenges that come with them, because you know, that's part of them. And really they're not any, you know, I don't see Kelly any different than her younger brother. We each have our own challenges. Some we see, some we don't. And everybody has some type of a challenge or disability.
Now, Rachel
So
wanted me to
embrace it.
ask, how do you feel when people come up and pray? Want to
Well,
pray it?
I feel
Sorry.
awkward. I feel partly mad. I want to tell them off to leave my child alone.
You laughed at Walmart.
That was out of awkwardness, because when you have some woman running up to your child and putting her head between their
Her bosoms. Yeah.
and start praying, you know,
Yeah.
if you're not sure what to.
Well, I mean, you got like older people when I was little that would say, like, I need to be in an institution
Yes.
and that kind of thing. Like, people have always talked to me about how children can be so cruel. Like, it must have been so hard for you. And there were kids that were mean. There were kids that beat me up and stuff. But like, I would say the older people were,
The adults.
yeah, the like the people that grew up in an era where you just put people.
Or parents thought you were getting a role or getting something easy because you had a disability, where you know, their
Look,
child
we
didn't.
drew Thumbelina out of a hat. I got chosen. It was all fair. And I got stuck in the box, but it's okay.
And I did for a long time get tired of the quote unquote normal children. She's quote unquote not a normal child. And I thought, she's normal.
I'm not normal. But it's not because of my disability that I'm not normal.
Yeah, the praying thing is funny because on the 4th of July we went to go see the fireworks, and this lady came up to me because I was in my wheelchair, because it was a long distance, so we were like, okay, we'll use the wheelchair. And this lady saw I was in a wheelchair and she like asked, can I pray for you? And like my mom was there, and my mom had actually started to say, oh yes, thank you, or whatever. But then I was like, no, I'm good. And the lady walked away. But like, I think my mom is like maybe a little bit like, a little bit like she doesn't realize like maybe why that's like not the best thing, even though like I know like those people have good intentions like asking that, but it's like if you really think about it for a second, you'll realize why that's like not helpful or useful in any way. But like, so I think my mom
I was starting to write a stand-up bit today, like, was Jesus ableist and that's why he made the lame walk and the blind see? Like, he didn't like maybe
oh my gosh.
maybe there's something there, you know? Like maybe
Yeah, it is interesting. It is interesting. And then it's also interesting too because in some like cultures and mythologies, they believe like, I don't know, I've read it a lot around like blind characters where they think actually that that's like connects you more to God, which is interesting. Like with the Samson and Delilah type of thing. I don't know. So it's interesting the way that um it's viewed. But then there's also people who think like, I think you mentioned last time we talked about this, Kelly, like that people can associate it with like something negative, like you're like it's some kind of punishment or something. I don't know. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was the one time, and I was just having a really bad day. I'd moved into a house, and it ended up like the rent was going to be more than they said. All this was going to be, and I like called my aunt at the time, and I was like, I didn't want to say anything in front of the roommate, so I was like, I forgot something. I need to come back and get it. I'm just gonna hop on the bus. And she's like, okay. And she realized once we hung up that, she probably should have come and got me because she could hear my voice that something wasn't right. But I started walking towards the bus, and this homeless guy came up to me. He goes, did you know that redheaded disabled people are the children of the devil? It says so in the Bible. And I just thought, now is not the time. You're really like too much going on right now, sir. Like, and I mean, I never found a passage that says that, or I don't know. Anybody read that one in Sunday school?
I think he was just off his rocker a little bit or something.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard that one before. It's interesting to go up to someone and say that, like, too. Like, what am I supposed to do about that?
You're like, sorry, sir, I'll go tie my hair.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know how people really do that. I mean, you can say, I'll pray for you, just put on your prayer list at night or whatever. I can see something like that, but walking up and putting your arms around somebody
or kneeling in front of them at the gym, in front of the whole gym to see, which had happened, and Wes called them out and said, you're making her uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's why I've started saying no, because when I was younger, I would say yes because I would feel bad saying no, but then it's like whenever they pray, it's always like, they want to pray to cure you. And then I'm curious, like, with that, have you ever had people like try to, like, maybe when Kelly was younger, like give you advice or like try to, I don't know, because there's all these people today. Huh?
Like give her home remedies to
because there's all these people today now. I don't know if that's like a new thing, but there's all these people today now who like want to try to cure stuff holistically. I don't know, or just like think that there's like cures for things. Like, I don't know. Has there ever been a parent like who's tried to give you advice?
Or just a person come give you unsolicited, like, try this essential oil.
Or even like parenting advice. Has there ever been like unsolicited advice?
I got a whole lot of unsolicited, and I don't really remember them because I think that's the one thing with being a parent of someone who has challenges is that you get a whole lot of that kind of stuff, and you just have to block it out because
well, just from the school, I think people were telling you things like that you should be doing or I should be doing. I mean,
yes, if everybody has a point of view or an idea or something that isn't always appropriate.
Yeah.
I mean, we tried stuff. on our own. Not that I thought would cure you, because I knew what you had. It's not, we were told about a new thing about people having strokes, and they were taking other cells and putting it into the
Like stem
part
cells.
of part of the brain that is damaged, that will fix those that aren't working. And sure, you see these things that are happening, and you can hope that maybe it helps them or helps someone. But we have to go individually what's going to help Kelly. Kelly has a couple of family members who did not believe she had cerebral palsy. I still don't know to this day if they even believe she had cerebral palsy, because they said that I was making her disabled. And to each his own.
We'll talk about that later. No. I had a guy.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I had a guy on a dating site. He had just been to the Smithsonian, and he said there was a exhibit about how a lot of people in the 1920s were misdiagnosed with cerebral palsy, and they really just had something and it could be cured. So he told me to go get it checked out. And I thought, my mom probably took me to at least get a few other opinions. I think it's been highly confirmed that what I have, which, everyone here, mom has cerebral palsy in the room. Allison and Michaela both do. Like, it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, no, I think that ship has sailed. I have CP, and that's okay. But I'm glad you learned something at the Smithsonian. But did you? Yeah.
Yeah. And I worked, I'm laid off right at this point, but I worked with someone who had a daughter that had spina bifida, and she needed some help, the mother, because she thrived on the attention that she got from her child being disabled. And I think that's really sad. I think that you should, embrace who your child is, love them for who they am and who they are, and try to do what you can to support them. Physical therapy and so many things that Kelly's had to go through do not look comfortable. But we did it. A lot of times we ended up laughing, or we went and had lunch at Magnoma Falls, or if you stand in your standing box for half an hour, you can have an ice cream cone, try to find them rewards. It isn't easy. The braces, the pie-shaped pillows, the surgeries, all of these things.
Having a little PTSD right now. I've seen, like, in the disability culture, like, that it's ableist to, like, push your child or have therapy or make them do these things. But I'm thankful that she pushed me, because, like, no, I didn't want to get up and re-walk after hip surgery. It was painful. And did I cry through it? Yeah. But am I glad that, someone made, I personally am glad, like, look, if you don't want to be pushed to do something, like, don't do it. But, like, I'm glad that, and we lived in a small town, so we had to go 4.5 hours away for medical care and that kind of thing. So, yeah, where you see, like, parents who live in, like, Iowa ordering, like, leg braces on Amazon for their kids, and that kind of thing. So I don't know. Not always easy.
No. And technically, if she ever drives, she's supposed to be in a car seat because she's not tall enough. So, you know.
They have adjustable seats now.
Yeah, my mom's seat in her van, you can like move it upwards. It like has a
Mm-hmm.
automated thing. Yeah.
Well, but
And in terms
by
of,
law,
like-
she's not tall enough. You're supposed to be 5'9", or you're supposed to be
5'9", no one should be
She's
driving.
supposed to be 4'9", and she's only 4'8". So technically, it says you're still supposed to be in a car seat if you're below 4'9".
I'll drive with heels on. It's okay.
Sit in
Oh
I
a
my
mean,
God.
you know, like Nick Novicki drives, and he's way shorter than me. So, although
I think
they-
that's an
they-
old law anyway.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just a joke.
Ha ha ha. See, this is where I get my sense of humor.
I didn't realize we were so similar in height. I think I'm around that. I'm like around 5 foot ish.
Yeah,
Or maybe
yeah.
a little shorter. But yeah.
Allison, how tall are you? If you were standing,
5'2".
5 foot, yeah. And then I know like Liz has talked about being short, and I think Christine is short, like one of our teachers. So I wonder if there's like a CP thing with that or something. I don't know.
Well, I was born premature. I was born
Oh,
like
was
3
I?
months pre. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so
So I think
she-
that's kind of.
Yeah.
yes,
Were you premature too, Allison?
No,
No?
Kelly was 20. Go ahead, Allison.
I was the biggest baby in the ICU.
Woo!
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah.
Yeah, Kelly was 22 weeks, 1 pound, 14 ounces, and 12 inches long. So the weight of and the length of a loaf of Wonder Bread.
Yeah, I don't know my exact numbers, but I know I was born like 3 months premature, so like at 6 months. But yeah, I don't. My mom probably knows all the numbers, but I don't know. But yeah, I definitely was super small. I know that she always tells me how small I was as a baby, but yeah,
Yeah,
definitely was super.
the leftover diapers that I had from the hospital, I put them in dolls later when I was a kid.
We still have some.
Oh, you do it like in a box? Yeah.
Yeah, my mom had to get me doll baby clothes, I think, too.
Did
So
you
we're
dress me
still-
in doll clothes?
No, they had preemie clothes.
Oh, they did. Okay.
I just
Yeah.
had just so I could go up the backside of Disneyland rides.
I know. Wes is just in it for the parking. He would kill me for saying that. Yeah. Well, and also something interesting. So, like, we talk about her fighting the school. Like, literally, right before graduation, they called me in and they didn't want me to walk with my class because our graduations were in the football field, and we walked out from the gym and then down the flight of stairs and then processed. And like my school does it by height, which I've heard is not very common in graduations. So I knew the kid I'd be walking with, like, because it's a small town, I knew him. He was going to help me. He was going to take like one arm. And so when I got called in there, I told her, I said, well, Steven, and she said, well, we give a little leeway. Like, he'll probably walk with his girlfriend. Like, she was his height. And I was like, okay. And like I said, I'm wearing Converse under my dress, like with my dress, like all this stuff. And, you know, I had a class with Steven the next period and asked him, he's like, I'm still going to walk with you. Like, I'm going to help you. A mom had to come in and like fight for me. And I was actually talking about this with some people at my high school reunion who I'd literally gone through elementary school with my whole life. And he's like, we didn't care. We knew why it was slow. We would have stood in that parking lot. Like, we didn't care. Like, but it took an extra 15 more minutes of our graduation ceremony. Like, yeah, so.
Oh, but it was that long.
Yeah, it probably wasn't. I don't know.
You're not that slow. You're slow, but not that slow.
Yeah.
When she had her hip surgery, she wanted the bone out of her hip.
did.
And
'Cause,
so
you
I
know-
went to the doctor and I said, she wants her bone.
I asked him to, and he was like, "That's never happened." Because in the '90s, in all the cartoons, kids kept their appendix like in a jar, and I thought, I'm gonna keep my bone in a jar. Like, how cool would that be?
And they grind it up.
And I asked them, and they were like, "No, they grind it up and put it back in to help the bones heal and grow." And I was like, lame. What if I wore it as like a necklace or something? Super lame.
That would have been so cool. That reminds me. That reminds me of like when Mary Shelley kept like Percy Shelley's fossilized heart in her desk. Anyway,
Oh.
because it was because he like died in the ocean, and so it like what's the word where it like calcifies or something, and so when they like got his body out, they were able to like keep his heart, and it just was like anyway, Mary Shelley kept it. That was random, but yeah. No, I've had 2 surgeries. I don't know if they took anything out or not, but
So what type of cerebral palsy do you have? Do you know, are you like her and spastic
yeah, I think we have the
diplegic, or-
same. I think we have the same kind. Yeah, mine is just with my legs, and it's like the spastic. Oh my god, I can't speak today. Diplegic, whatever. So yeah, I think we have the same kind.
Allison? Do you know what you have? What kind?
Yeah, I'm 100% sure Allison knows.
I have dystonic CP. It used to be called asthmatoid CP. I have a lot of uncontrollable movement, but I've luckily never had to have surgery.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah, good job.
My
You know,
my mom got me really good PT and OT, and I avoided surgery, so I feel really lucky.
Yeah, Kelly
Yeah.
had 4.
Wow.
well, one was to get screws taken out. No,
Well, still 4 surgeries.
I had 4. No, I had 3. I think.
You had 4.
And my Achilles tendons and my groin was with
Your
that.
adductors were twice. You had 2 adductors.
Oh really?
And then your osteo something where they did the pie piece in your hip.
Yeah, I was 12.
That's because she wasn't weight bearing enough to have the hip bone go in. So they had to tip it in. So
Yeah, like as babies, they always explained it as babies learn to walk, your bones go like this. But since I never really fully like walked like a baby, they had to like.
so they kept
Good.
coming out.
And then I walked on my tiptoes, so they cut the Achilles tendon, and then they cut some groin muscles for some reason that I don't know.
Adductors.
That's the adductor. Oh, okay.
So when she had her Achilles tendons cut, we went hiking afterwards. And so when they went to cut the casts off, dirt and rock come rolling out.
Yeah, like parts of Anthony Lake Mountain just fell into Portland, I think. Yeah.
So yes, she didn't have to have a full cast
Because my bones were strong
when she had the hip
so
surgery. So
that was good. Yeah. So that was summer too. That would have been miserable. And then one of my other favorite stories is when I had that surgery, I was going to 6th grade, and in my town they did 6th grade all in one building. So that because you had 3 elementary schools. So they wanted kids to bond before they went off to middle school. And so we were touring the school because I was going to be fully in a wheelchair recovering from this surgery. I was going to have an aide. Well, the only handicapped bathroom in the school was in a boys' room. And so the principal was like, okay, Kelly, you're going to come and you're going to knock on this door. And you're going to say, can everyone come out, please? And then once they come out, you'll come in. And Mom said that when I went in there, I looked at a urinal for the first time with the most horrified face. And so she was like, no, you're going to build. And they did. They built a accessible stall in the girls' room for me. So, yeah.
That is so bizarre. Like, do they not think disabled women exist? Like, why was it only in the boys' bathroom? That's weird.
I don't know.
It was an old building, but yeah, I don't.
It used to be an elementary?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it was also interesting this weekend. That town that I grew up in won an accessible park in a giveaway that I think the Portland Trailblazers did. Yeah. And we all like voted. And so all of a sudden we were all looking around and there was a lot more disabled people. And I was like, did they move here for the park? But like all my friends were talking, they were like, you were the only disabled kid I ever remember knowing. And we had them. I grew up with them. I went to school with them, but they were often just put in an IEP classroom and not integrated in classrooms. So it was really interesting to see that.
Yeah, most of them were over at Brooklyn. Because that's where the adaptive classes were. We're over at Brooklyn. And so that's where most of those were. And so, yeah, I hated going into an IEP meeting because it was like, I felt like I was sitting in a room and people were throwing knives at me because I was always having to fight for stuff for her. Technically, she was the first physically challenged child who I guess was coming through because
I was there at the same time as some other boy that had spina bifida, but he
Eric?
didn't. Yeah, but he didn't use any mobility aids or anything.
No, he just
And there was a girl
Didn't have
below
the
me,
feeling.
but yeah, Mom got them to like build ramps and put in bars and like, like a guy at my reunion was complaining because of some like crappy piece of playground equipment we had, and I was like, I was allowed to play on playground equipment until 5th grade. I win. So yeah, because they thought that my mom was gonna sue them, so I wasn't allowed to. And I mean, I don't know, like, I think you grew up in a small town, Michaela. I know Allison grew up, but like Allison tried to do the theater program and they told her that there was no rules for her. So, and I told her I'll
but
go.
there are rules for
Yeah.
her. They just have to adapt it.
Yeah. And her mom said, you're typecasting. You haven't even, yeah. And I told her I'll go burn it down. But I'll just go strike. Yeah.
Yeah, I know for me, like, I'm kind of similar in that, like, I was the only one disabled in, like, the regular classes. Like, obviously there were other disabled people there, but I was not in, like, the designated class. I was
Like
in,
the
like,
resource room or
Yeah, like special
Yeah. I was in like regular classes, so I was like in those classes I was the only disabled person. So that was always kind of interesting. For sure.
So
And
do
then I
you call yourself disabled? Or I always called Kelly physically challenged because she could do a lot of the stuff she did.
I refer to myself as disabled for me, yeah. But I know for like different people, have different preferences. Some people, don't want to use that terminology. I like using disabled because I think that's just
and there's handicapable.
yeah.
Some
I
people
think
like
too.
that. I think it's a personal choice. Like people
Yeah.
ask me, what should I call? And I say, I think with anything, it's like with pronouns, like ask what this person wants to be called.
Yeah.
And I know like Jillian Mercado, who has MS and she's an actress. She says, I don't like the word disabled because everybody has different abilities everywhere. Like, why, people like to point out our ability, but like you can do things and then there are things you can't do, and that's just everybody. So why are we as a group, so she just likes to call it like everybody is differently abled. The world has just decided to focus on us. Like, and I thought that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
you able because not that I can't do things, I just do them differently.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's also maybe it also might be like a generational thing too, where like older disabled people maybe had to like really push to be like, no, I'm like a regular person like everybody else. And then with our generation, I think like obviously it's still like a struggle, but I think too like, or with younger generations, it's like starting to be like, okay, we already know like, well, I don't know, not 100% of the time, but like a lot of people in our generation are like more knowledgeable and just because of the internet. And so I think like it's implied like we're already like everybody else, and so we don't have to like make that distinction where I can still be like, I'm disabled and I don't have to prove that I'm like y'all. I know that I am, but this is also part of my identity. So it can be like very complicated. But I think like, yeah, it might even be like a generational thing too.
Yeah. Well, and something interesting, when I worked at a middle school, I had a student that had Down syndrome, and we'd say like, you got to get to class, you're going to be tardy, and he would like freak out, and we realized that he thought we were calling him the R word. So we even had to like change like how we said that word. So like even that generation, them coming up learns that the R word was not, which is something they've definitely gotten away with. I mean, I know that was still at that time because there was another student where they were still trying to medically diagnose him with that term instead of what he actually had, which insurance, I guess, won't cover if the R word is your medical terminology. And so there's a lot of fights in that way, which like that just seems really old fashioned to me too, is if that's still a medical term. So.
Insurance.
Yeah. Like growing up, like did it go like people would say one term, like was it handicap and then it moved and shifted? Did you notice that?
Oh, I think it's always shifted. It was handicapped or disabled or handicapable or for a while, the reason why I got physically challenged because that was a terminology that they would use, mental or physically challenged. So yeah, and for me, it's just, you have cerebral palsy, you're not defined by your capability or not capable. Of course, I'm your mom, so I think that you can climb, Mount Everest. And
everybody does that now. It's not something to brag about.
Okay.
Well, people still die. I just saw something about, I always read about people dying up there. I don't know. That's scary. It's still scary. People, there's all those bodies up there.
Look, CP doesn't do well in the cold. If you are a CP person that wants to do that, kudos to you. But I'll go, is there some like big mountain in like the tropics I could climb and be hot?
I think there's one in the rainforest.
No rainforest. Okay. No. You know what's in the rainforest? Snakes.
Hey, it would get you up the hill faster. The mountain faster.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
I know when I was younger, in terms of the terminology, I think we used handicapped a lot. And then as I got older, I realized like talking to other disabled people that's kind of like become a little bit gauche or antiquated. I don't know,
Yeah.
antiquated. But I know
And then
growing
I've
up, like
heard
we
that-
always used handicap. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've heard that people are trying to bring back the power of it in the world, so they want to be called that again. I read a short story that was in a magazine when I was a teen about a girl dating a disabled guy, and one of the lines in the story was, "Disabled is a horse and handicap is a no. Disabled is a car and handicap is a horse. So why am I being labeled these things?" And I always thought, oh, that's interesting, but you know, it is what it is.
I just, in this world, we have to put labels on stuff, and I think it's just not okay to always have labels. Because she's Kelly. She just walks with
Mhm.
quad canes or sometimes sits in a wheelchair, but doesn't make her any different than, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's that distinction too of like whenever you hear artists say like, well, you know, it happens a lot with like women too, I think in general, where they're like, oh, I'm not a female comedian, I'm just a comedian, or like I'm not
Yeah.
a disabled actress, I'm an actress, even though that is like a part of your identity. It's not, it doesn't have to be like
Well,
the
and
main
even
thing.
things like comedian and actress are going away. Like I even have to stop and be like, I'm an actor, because people just want us all to be under the actor like umbrella, which is great. But even like I still have trouble saying like I'm an actor, because for so many years of my life I said I'm an actress. So, but I'm glad that that's shifting. It just like, you know, be patient with me as I'm learning. It's like not saying the word "hey guys" anymore, which that one's hard.
I think one thing as a parent that was hard for me was people or other parents saying that they were sorry that I had Kelly, had a disabled child, or that they feel sorry for me. And that was one of my biggest, I guess, biggest pet peeves was like, please do not feel sorry for us, because there's no reason for you to feel sorry for us. You know, she's Kelly, and we're gonna, you know, he's Jake. We're just gonna go out and conquer the world the best we can, and there's no reason for you to feel sorry for us. You know, she has challenges, but she isn't any different than your child that's quote unquote normal. And so I guess that's one of my biggest pet peeves is that and probably for parents who, you know, like the woman that I worked with who wants people to feel sorry for her. I think, well, one, shame on her, but two, that's really sad that you need to have somebody feel sorry for you because you have a child that just looks different. Because I feel very gifted that Jake and Kelly, or Kelly and Jake, picked me as their mom, because I'm going to cry.
Don't cry, no crying.
I
Can
just,
anyone fart real quick on command
or felt,
or belt?
I just feel gifted.
Speaking of actor life, I spent one day trying to see if I could belch on command because I figured that could be a good trick. And I was like, this is weird. Actors are weird. So, yeah, I know. Do it for them. Do it for the people. Teach them how you do that, so they, as actors, can go into the world and do that.
You just take a deep breath in the back of your throat.
Anyone auditioning for Shrek the Musical, let us know. We'll have you covered. Okay, all right. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
It's honestly such a cool talent. I'm obsessed with that.
I mean, don't you think that could be really handy?
That is.
Yeah.
It is.
I think so. especially if you're doing improv or comedy, like, but yeah, when I was working, I was at like an office Christmas party, and one of my coworkers, who'd been drinking too much, sits down and she starts talking about how she feels bad for the siblings of the disabled child because the disabled child gets all the attention and all this stuff, and it's got to be so hard on them. And I came home afterwards, and my brother had her when he went to school, and I said, do you feel like I got more attention, or that your childhood was more difficult because you had a disabled sibling? And he was like, nope. So
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, like I had surgeries and you came and stayed with me while grandma stayed with him, but I guess that didn't affect him. I remember like him when he was little, like people would ask him like, what's wrong with it? And he just thought is because I'd had surgery, because that was his earliest memories of me, was when I had my hip surgeries and all of that. So I always laughed at that. I thought that was funny. So.
Well, you're 8 years apart, so you got your 8 years being an only child, and he got his 8 years being an only child.
His has been real extended. He still lives here. I live in California, so it's making up for it. Do you have any advice for parents sending their kids out to live on their own?
Try not to worry. If you gave them the tools to be on their own, then you should not have to worry so much about them. Good for them. Independence. Time for them to have their freedom. And
Michaela, did your mom did she have concerns with you being like an acting theater major at George Mason?
Not with that, but definitely while we're on the topic of moving out and living independently, she did have concerns about that, and that was like she did not want me to move out. And even like when I lived well, I'm here actually now at my mom's house, but even when I lived here, like before I moved out, there were certain things, like she was even nervous about me like cooking by myself, which I do that. I can cook easily by myself, like there's no issues, but she even gets nervous about stuff like that because she's worried that like I'm gonna like burn myself or cut myself or do fall or something.
That happens with everyone. Like,
yeah,
Wes just cut himself on something recently. Can't remember what.
So
Cooking. But yeah.
Michaela, I understand that part because I don't know how many microwaves she's blown up. So
on fire.
Oh my gosh, do you put metal in the microwave?
The first one was a Chinese food box in like the 2000-ish era, and I went, Grandma, I caught the microwave on fire, and she came in and helped me. Then the second time, I was living with my uncle, and I was making like one of those Campbell microwavable soups, and for some reason it went, and I'm like, I followed the instructions. And then the third time, she had sent me a care package of like mini bagels from Costco, and they weren't very easy to like toast because they're tiny and cut. So I would put.
You're on the phone on one of these, and
that was that one. We also had a very sensitive smoke detector in this place. It would go off from the shower steam, and so my neighbors upstairs, they would run down if they heard it because they knew I couldn't turn it off. So anyways, I would put these bagels on a plate, and then I would cover them with Nutella. And then I would microwave them for 2 minutes. One day.
2 minutes.
Yes, 2 minutes.
Wow.
It was probably not a very strong microwave. Well, I hit the 5 accidentally, and yeah, I don't think that microwave recovered. Those roommates were terrible, so they deserve a smoky microwave to remember me by, I think. Yeah. So,
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
but what else have you ever
So she
caught
was-
anything on fire in a microwave?
So she was worried about you cooking, Michaela.
Yeah, yeah. Even like when I lived at home, like, and I would want to like cook something for myself, she like hovers around me the whole time. And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know about y'all, but like when I'm in the kitchen, I don't like people hovering around me because it's just
My
like I'm
grandma
just trying to like. What'd you say?
My grandma does that when I'm in the kitchen and I'm here.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know. Which like I get it, but it's just after a while, and it's like, well, because it got frustrating because it's just like I'm in my 20s. I'm old enough where I need to be like doing stuff on my own. So there was a little push pull there, a little push pull there. Oh,
Allison, what about you? What did your mom always support you acting? I mean, I know she went into the school and fought for you, but like when you wanted to do it, like when you became SAG and all of that, your mom like always supported that?
No, my parents were extremely hesitant to let me be an actor. I had to argue and argue with them, and finally, when I was 9, they let me take an acting class, and I did background work, and I joined SAG when I was 12, but I mean,
Is there anything that you're in the background of that we can go back and watch and look for like cute little Allison in the background?
you can go back on that show, Raven. I did that in high school.
Oh, she's in That's So Raven?
Yeah, as an extra. Yeah.
It was
I may have already said, because I remember being like, I don't really see a wheelchair character in the background.
I only did it twice, but it was funny because I was in high school and like people at my high school would be wearing like shoes on that too, and I'm like, I can't believe people found me. Like I used to have a picture of my friend Sharon because she found me. I have no idea what episode it was, but
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna watch it and then I'll take a screenshot of you and send it to you.
no idea. But they weren't just hesitant because of my CP. They were hesitant because they know how hard it is to be an actor, and it's a tough work. They didn't want that, but I was stubborn. and I
Listen, when that acting bug bites you, it's you're a goner. Like there's no cure. You what
also grew up in Los Angeles, so it was like I went full of other kids who were actors. There were parents of kids who were actors, so it didn't seem like a foreign idea. It just seemed like, okay, this is something people do.
Yeah. I was just telling Wes, I've been listening to like Mark Maron's podcast, and in one episode, Melissa McCarthy was talking about how she's going to school for fashion. And then she decided to be an actor. And her parents weren't okay with her being an actor. They were like hesitant. But Mark's like, but they were okay with you going into fashion? Like that's more secure than like acting. Like, and then Kristen Wiig was going to school for oil painting. She's gonna be an artist. her parents supported that, but when she started acting, they were scared for her. And he goes, but oil painting is a big, like, booming business. Like, and so I think that every parent, like, unless they're those crazy stage moms, are very, but yeah, so
Well, I was a stage mom when you were growing up, but I always had the cookies or the treats.
She did a lot of the concessions. She was the concessions mom.
Reception.
Yeah. Fundraising. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for me, like, because I did theater and like an English degree, so I already like had built in like other stuff that I can do because I knew like acting is like hard even for able-bodied people. So I think like since I had both of those things, maybe that like made it so she wasn't super worried about it. I don't know. But yeah. That might have helped, I'm not sure. I don't know what would have happened if I only did acting, like, because I had that other stuff going on. To kind of like be a backup, or not a backup, but like a, thing that I can do to make money while I audition for stuff. But yeah. It's
So what do you do
definitely
now?
interesting.
So,
Right now, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
I do like sound engineering, and then I also, with my English degree, I'm like applying for like editor jobs and stuff too, because I do a lot of like editing and stuff like that. But yeah, so kind of stuff like that, writing related things too. I'm still applying for more stuff in DC, but yeah, mostly like sound engineering.
I send auditions for the DC area all the time.
Yeah, and still auditioning for stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And then Allison is an amazing producer. She's our producer on this, actually, and she worked on the Stephen Colbert show at one point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He asked for diversity, right, Allison? It's like every year he hires a disabled.
No, if you're part of like Canberra Act,
Right.
you get bumped to like to go actually look at your application, but just because you apply and have a disability doesn't guarantee you a spot. You have to fight for like everyone else, and it's extremely competitive. I'm so surprised I made it. I did have to apply twice, and some people have to apply even one time because gotta prove you want it.
Yeah. I think that's like a big thing in the entertainment business is they do these little things to see like how bad do you want it. Yeah. All right, is there any more questions?
Mine is just more of a comment, which is that I really appreciate like your perspective on Kelly's disability, because I often see like parents of disabled children who do kind of treat it like a burden sometimes. Like I've seen that before, and it's really unfortunate. Or even thinking about the story you told about the woman who, didn't want a disabled child, and I hear that all the time. Like I even took a philosophy class in college because it was required, and one of the class days our topic was like, would you have an abortion if you knew you were going to have a disabled child? And we had to have a whole debate about that for like the whole class, and it's like this whole thing. So, Anyway,
What did majority of the class say? And
well,
then
I had to go off a little bit because I was like, well, if you don't think that you're willing to have a disabled child, you shouldn't have a child, period, because they can become disabled at any point, even after birth.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't only happen at birth. So if you don't think you can
Yeah.
handle a disabled child, you shouldn't have a child.
Yeah, do you
Period.
what
Like-
if your child became Christopher Reeves? Like, would you support that? Like,
Yeah, so it's not only something that happens at birth, it can happen after. And if you're not prepared for that, then don't have
Yeah.
a kid. Like, I don't know.
Well-
So I think, yeah.
It's like cerebral palsy. It doesn't have to happen at birth. It can happen because you were given aspirin and it caused brain damage. It's to a certain age that they call it cerebral palsy. I was thinking it's like 8 to 10 or something like that, but
well, and then, I had a friend in college whose sister had a babysitter, and the babysitter shook her, and now she's got a lot of disabilities and mental challenges, and like her parents had to take that on, and that had nothing to do. I mean, they left the baby with this baby, but that was the babysitter's fault. So I mean, I think, or your kid could end up with cancer, or like, I think everybody. I mean, and I think that's something that they're trying to change, is like, stop saying I just want a healthy baby and just start saying I just want a baby. And I kind of laugh sometimes too, because like pregnant people see me and they're like, it's like I bursted the bubble of the reality that, a perfect little baby, but yeah.
Well, it's interesting because yesterday I was looking at my Facebook and I saw this video of this girl who sued her parents for giving birth to her because it was not her choice to be born. And she said, people, you should go to a psychic and have the psychic ask the baby if they want to be born. And so she sued it because when she turned 18, her parents bought her a house, but it wasn't like 5,000 square foot house like she was used to having, that had a bowling alley and a tennis court and a swimming pool. It was only 12,000 feet or 12,000 square. So she sued them because it was not her choice to be born.
That's crazier than the McDonald's woman, or like people suing for being fat like that. That's yeah.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a rich person thing. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because if my mom bought me a house like that, I would not be complaining. That's
Yeah,
really
if my
something.
mom bought me a tiny house, I'd be like, thank you for my tiny house, Mom. Like, yeah, it's
Wow, that's really,
Yeah.
really, really something. Wow.
yeah.
I
So
can't-
don't sue me.
I don't plan it. Well, the kid on the Nirvana album like sued his parents, like, and Nirvana. Well, no, I think maybe he sued Nirvana for being on the album. And I think, why aren't you talking to your parents about why they, like,
Oh, that's interesting. I can kind of see that, I guess, because I don't know though. That's interesting.
I think she's laughing at us.
That's interesting.
She's laughing at the crazy.
Honestly, I would think that's cool though. Like if that was me, I would tell people that any chance I get. Like I'm the
Yeah.
kid on their Nirvana album. I would think
Like
that's
the B
cool.
girl, the B girl in the no rain song or whatever, where she's just running around. That's her claim to fame. Like that's her name on Twitter. Like that's her, and that's like one of the few things she's ever done acting wise. She goes by B girl, so be naked Nirvana baby. Like why,
Yeah, you're the Nirvana baby. You should milk that. Like, why are you mad? Like, I would be really happy. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
Well, some of the other thing is that people are stuck on how other people look at other people. So if your child doesn't look perfect, then people have issues with that because their child's not perfect. And I'm putting it in quotes.
Yeah.
But to me, my children are perfect. So, I guess perfect's in the eye of the beholder.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
you know-
definitely.
Yeah,
Go
like
ahead.
nowadays you're like, well, like, would you be okay if your kid had autism? I mean, it's like when we were talking to AJ, the dancer, he's now, he's in his 40s and he was just diagnosed with ADHD. He's now doing the autism test. Like, people are now finding these things out, much later in life. Like, these are things they're not doing a test for in like utero, where you can decide if you want to have that child. And so I think, like, if you're not willing to take your child as they are 100%, gay, queer, sexuality, like all disabled across the board, like, Satan worshiper, you should love them no matter what. Like, they say like not knowing the sex of your baby is the last great surprise, but maybe like how a human turns out should be the last.
Yeah, I see that a lot with like not only disabled, but like you said, LGBT or even like the gender. Like, people get so fixated on a gender, they're like, oh, I want a boy. Like, does it really matter though? It's just like people get so fixated on what the baby will be before it comes, and it's just like, if you're not willing to accept like all the possibilities, including like that they could be disabled and it could take a lot of extra work, then like don't have the baby, because you don't know what's going to happen. And like, that's what, when going back to like in the philosophy class, like a lot of people were like, well, I don't know if I would be able to do that, like and I understand like financially, but like also just like they weren't sure if they would be able to like handle that. And it's like, well, if you don't think you can handle it, like I said, my personal philosophy is like, don't have a kid then, because like you don't know. But I don't know. Anyway,
I think the most talented people are people with cerebral palsy, with CP. They are smart, they are funny, they are talented.
She's been watching a lot of CP comedians on America's Got Talent lately, so
I have you.
Yeah, and me. I'm entertaining her.
So,
with my pretending there's a twister going on outside. There's not.
It's just you.
Yeah. I'm yes-anding everything. So I did share a shirt today that said AI could never zip zap zop.
oh my gosh. Yeah,
Zip zap
so
zop
true.
is an improv game. Like, I would go to Michaela and I'd go zip, and then she'd go to Allison and go zop, and then there's more people you might forget if you're at zip or zop.
Oh.
And then my school made it more extreme. You had to do celebrities with 3 names, and you had to do 3 in a row. So we did like Jesse Tyler Ferguson, and then you had to remember Neil. So you had to remember where you were and who said it last and who. Yeah. So Wes thinks I could do it, but he couldn't clap. So I thought it was funny.
Well, you should always laugh at your own jokes.
I do.
I do too. I also laugh at my own jokes. Sometimes I'm like trying to tell a joke and I'm laughing so hard that I can't even tell the joke.
Yeah. We had a comedian last week, and so Michaela and I were talking comedy and stand-up, and Michaela's done some stand-up.
Now, the young man who did try out for America's Got Talent is pretty funny.
Yeah. And he uses a device, like a computer device. Like,
it was his cell phone, but
yeah. Well,
because he's nonverbal. Yeah. So his joke about the handicap or disabled and the the person who's telling him that he's disabled, right?
Yeah, he called himself handicapped on his profile, and some able-bodied person came in and said, "You need to say disabled.
And,
Oh my
Disabled
God.
is there," and he was like
and it's probably some white woman sitting in a handicapped stall.
typing
Typing.
it out. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, so real.
Yeah.
So
And-
real.
And
Have you ever had to fight like for an accessible space because someone who was able, but like you needed to take me into the handicap stall, or you needed a parking spot and someone was there, like who wasn't? Have you ever had to do that?
handicap parking, yes. And then we've gotten in trouble before
Yeah.
parking in the handicap, and people are like yelling at me, and I just
So then
learned-
really slow getting out of the car.
and I'm just used to say, wait until she gets out of the car to see who it is that she walks with canes.
Yeah.
Bathrooms
my
all the time. So yeah, bathrooms we'd have to wait, which weren't so easy for you to do. We were at Disneyland one time, and we're standing in line. This is before we found out that we could go up the back side of Disneyland. And we're waiting in line, and we've already been there a long time. And we get almost to the front of the line, and she says, "I have to go to the bathroom." I'm like, "We're not getting out of this line." So it was Peter Pan. So we're going to get on the ride. Can I tell the story?
Yeah, you've already started it. The people want to hear the end.
So we get on
Peeing
the,
your pants is normal and there's no shame unless it's Donald Trump. Go ahead.
so we get on the ride, and she just has to go. So I'm like cupping my hands so in case she has to go, that it's not flying over Peter over the towel.
Oh, maybe I peed on Neverland. Like, yeah.
So I'm like carrying her. I'm like holding her up and running to the bathroom as quickly as we can. And there was when we went to England, we were in the Runyon at the Globe Theater.
Oh God. Don't
And-
be a groundling.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You're like, it's free. It's gonna be amazing. Then you're through like the first act of King Lear, and you're like, this is the worst mistake I've made. in my
For
life.
4 hours, I had to hold her up.
Because
Man.
She couldn't sit down.
They wouldn't let you.
So my arms were sore, and her legs were.
there was a girl in our group who like tried sitting down back towards the wall, and they wouldn't let her. They made her stand up. So, but and also we didn't really even take into consideration how much walking you're doing in the day prior to the show. All the things, like I think even getting down to the Globe Theater is quite a hike because they want it to seem like Shakespeare time. And so yeah, if you're listening to this, do not be a groundling in Shakespeare theater, but be a groundling in an improv. That's my advice.
That is good to know. That is good to know because I've yet to go to England. But
Yeah.
when I do,
Well-
now I know.
Well, King Lear's a 4-hour show, so a 4.5-hour show.
I only remember two parts: the very beginning and when he gets his eyes pecked out by a bird. Because I mean,
Yes, yes.
there's a guy with no eyeballs, so that's harder. But yeah, one day I'll go back and like buy a seat and yeah.
We did
King
some
Lear
fun
is-
things. King Lear, what?
Oh, I was gonna say King Lear is good. It's also interesting in terms of disability because I remember reading that for a class and like you can write a whole paper about disability in that play. But anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
We've had a lot of laughs. I mean, we never knew what Kelly was, how Kelly was going to come through a door, either hanging on to the doorknob or.
So I used to grab onto the doorknob, but then the door would pull me and I didn't let go and it dragged me. Like,
So she'd be hanging
Into
off the
that
doorknob.
house. I'll try to find a video and put it on the internet. Like mom always said, like she should send it to America's Funniest Home Videos. But yeah. It's always an adventure. And I mean, I come from the philosophy, and I think it's because I was raised by my mom and grandma who are very humorous and love to laugh, that I laugh at my disability. Like I laugh at the woman in the Walmart parking lot trying to save me. I laugh at the fact that, I'm trying to do something the best I can, but it probably seems weird.
Your mom's in her pajamas and tells you don't to
Oh, yes.
fall.
It was winter and I was working in middle school, and my mom took me to work and she was in her pajamas and she goes, "Don't slip on the ice going in." And the minute I stepped out of the car, I slipped on the ice going in. So she had to get out of the car in her pajamas. Help me. So, you just have to laugh at life because I think it's easier.
Well, even because I've just been around my baby cousin who's out there. She's like 1.5. And when we were in Colorado, she likes to like run around the house and like run around in circles and stuff. And we had to make sure like she wasn't gonna run down the stairs and hurt herself because there was like stairs right there. And so my mom is like following her around to make sure she doesn't go down the stairs. And following her, running around the entire house. And I made the joke of like, man, I bet you were glad like I was disabled because I wasn't running around like that. And she was like, "No, you rolled around everywhere." But I was like, "Yeah, but not like that." Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I made that joke before. Like, I was easy. You never had to find me in the grocery store or.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, never mind.
Or like you climbing the tallest ladder in the park. You were up it quicker than anything, and I had to try
That's
to climb.
we were all talking about this because they built an accessible park in my hometown, which is great. But we had a death slide, which was really tall, and it was sheet metal, so it got really hot. And like we had one of those merry-go-rounds that you always would fly off of. And we were like, how do these kids grow up to be great adults without the death park experience? Like, and I guess our swings were famous. People used to talk about what big our swings were, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. But yeah, like, yeah.
You were very adventurous. No matter how you were going to get there, you were going to do that. Yeah, you guys figure out how to do stuff. It's maybe different than what other kids are, but you guys figure out how to do stuff that we still have to watch you.
But you probably had to chase Jake more than me.
Yeah. Well, there are many a times I was divided because you're off trying to go do something you shouldn't be doing, and he's trying to climb the 6-foot fence. So it was, it's not like you sat there prim and proper, Missy. You still were.
In my mind, I did.
You were not. Just sitting there.
See, so it's a good thing for your mom. You were an only child.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
Allison, only child.
I think Allison, are you an only child?
Yes, I am.
Do you guys feel spoiled? Like, or do you feel like your disability like evened it out?
No, I definitely. And I'm also the only grandchild.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got double.
So we all should be Allison. We're all jealous of Allison.
I got.
Like you may feel sorry for her because she's in a wheelchair, but hear me out. She's the only child and only grandchild.
Yeah.
Don't pray for her. She doesn't need it. She's got grandparent gold.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you a shirt that says that, Allison.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It's gonna say, I don't need your prayers. I'm an only grandchild.
Okay.
Yeah,
I will definitely look
please do, please. That's, yeah.
Michaela, you were gonna answer that. What were you gonna say?
I think probably I was a little spoiled being the only child. Well, technically I'm not the only child, but I grew up as an only child. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, I think I was a little bit spoiled in that way. Cause well, I was raised by I call her my mom, but I was actually raised by my grandmother. So it's kind of like I think maybe that also played into it a little bit. But yeah. Probably was a little bit spoiled, probably. Yeah.
You're spoiled too.
I had my moments,
The only thing you didn't get was a kitchen.
which is why I can't cook. So No. I was the firstborn grandchild on both sides. So I had it for 6 years. I don't know. 6 years on this side of the family, at least, of being the only grandchild.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. I don't know on the other side. I can't think of who was born next.
probably one of Julie's.
Mhm. But I'm the coolest grandchild. So
Well, to this one, UNJ, but you, and then Lily and Maya. Any more questions?
I think those are all my questions. Yeah. Just again, like going back to my comment, I appreciate like your perspective on disability as a mom, because I've seen other parents of disabled children who definitely, like you were saying, like treat it like, to get attention or treat it like a burden. So I definitely appreciate your perspective.
Yeah.
And also that you raised Kelly so nicely. Kelly's wonderful. So thank you for that. But yeah, thank you for talking with us today. I think that's all my questions. I don't know if Allison has a question or
No, I just wanted to say thank you for talking to us because when really great and you did an amazing job with
Oh, thank you.
she's brilliant. So good job.
Well, I say that both my kids made it easy for me to be a parent. So they grew up on laughter. That's how I disciplined. So sometimes it was hard to discipline them when you're cracking up laughing so hard because of the things they did, So
yeah, like when your little kid cusses and you're like, this is adorable and hilarious, but you can't say that. Can't say that word.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
thank you for allowing me to be on here.
Of course. Thank you for joining us.